Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric is off this morning and no voice. Woke up to no voice. I don't think he felt sick in any other way. He just doesn't have a voice. So far, mine has lasted. I had problems with it earlier this week, but was able to somehow struggle through it. Lots of tea. No, I'm kidding. Coffee. But we're all ready to go. How's everybody doing, huh? You made it to a Friday. Yeah, we did. But the insanity continues, and of course it does. It's what makes this show so much fun, is the insanity continues. I want to make sure I play this because you saw that Senator Fetterman was on The View yesterday. And this started a couple of days ago where some on the left were talking about, well, maybe he should pardon Trump because then it would be across the board. He would show that he wants to stop all of this. I'm like, no. If he pardoned Trump, it was just to have cover because then he could justify pardoning his entire family and anybody else that he feels that was involved in the weaponization of government, he could pardon them too. But yesterday, Fetterman tries to make the stupid moral equivalency of, well, what Hunter Biden did was a political prosecution. Seriously, here we go.
Well, I think it's undeniable that the case against Hunter Biden was really politically motivated, but I also think it's true that the trial in New York for Trump that was political as well too. Now it's that, and in both cases, I think a pardon is appropriate, and I really think collectively, America's confidence in these kinds of institutions have been damaged by these kinds of cases, and we cannot allow these kinds of institutions to be weaponized against our political opponents. And it's very clear both trials were politically motivated and weaponized that on the other side.
They'll say that about the J6 people too, though, right? That's what they're going to say on the other side. That is weaponized also.
I'm not referring to that. I'm talking about the New York trial. And now the Democrats on our side there were some that were gleeful, calling it like, now he's a convicted felon and those things. And now for our party, we were talking about criminal justice, and we are now talking about second chances. And now all of a sudden now you're like, well, he's a convicted felon and all these things. And now clearly, again, both of those trials, the Hunter Biden one and the trial in New York for Trump, that was politically motivated. And those kinds of charges would have never been brought unless one side could realize that they could weaponize that.
Now, first off, he doesn't know what he's talking about because he said Biden should pardon the New York trial. He can't. Those are state charges. Unless he's talking about how they tried to take the state charge and make it a federal. And if they wiped out the federal, that would wipe out the state. I don't know because he didn't explain it. But that really isn't the point. The point is where the narrative is now from some Democrats that are promoting it. I don't believe it'll probably happen. I'd be very surprised if he attempted to pardon Trump. And in fact, I think if he pardoned Cheney, there's still the thing out there in the media that, the Democrats love the fact that, Liz Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris, and so she should be rewarded and protected. Are you crazy? The liberals hated that. They absolutely hated that. Who did we play a couple of weeks ago who said that's one of the major reasons they believe that she lost liberal support? Is because, she was parading Liz Cheney around in Dick Cheney's endorsement, and the left hates them both. Yeah, they were useful tools for the J6 committee. She was not they. she was, Liz Cheney, but they used her. She got, we're not going to, what, support her? What, are you out of your mind? Why the heck did you ever take her endorsement and parade her around? They hated that. But it's the fact that they're trying to make the moral equivalency that Hunter Biden, that his case was politically motivated. There was something in his case that was politically motivated, and that is the sweetheart deal. That was politically motivated. And you can talk about whether prosecutors would go after the gun crime. Some would not, depending on the state that you're in. I think many liberal states, would definitely go after the gun crime. But on the tax evasion, everybody is losing it on the left. Oh, that was strictly political. Are you out of your freaking mind? He pleaded guilty to it. Tax evasion is where you go to jail. You don't go to jail if you can't pay your taxes. You go to jail if you attempt to avoid paying federal taxes. There was nothing. The only political motivation in those cases was letting the statute of limitations run out on some of the tax evasion charges in order to protect the president's son. That's the only political motivation there. Somebody needs to blast Vetterman, because if he goes on any type, because he'll go on Fox or whatever, somebody needs to blast him on that. Because that's the narrative. The narrative is, that Biden was right. Fetterman is trying to say Biden was right for pardoning his son because it was all political motivation. Therefore, he should pardon Trump. And there's this delusional mindset from people like Fetterman that, well, then we make it equal. I even saw that in the Wall Street Journal. Well, he should pardon Trump. Those cases are gone. And they're going to be reversed. The Supreme Court threw him out. Now, the point is, why would you pardon something that the Supreme Court has thrown out? And if the prosecutors don't go after it, it's gone. You don't need any pardon. It's gone because the Supreme Court. But I think they're doing it just to try to make the case, or the false moral equivalency, that Biden was justified in pardoning Hunter, which he was not. I just want to make sure I did that because it was like, wow. And then you can see the challenges. This is Stephanie Ruhle on MSNBC. They can't figure out what opinion to hold on the whole Hunter Biden pardon. Oh, my gosh. Things are so much fun over there. Morning Joe is screaming and yelling because Rachel Maddow and some of the other hosts are furious. They went to meet with Trump and he's screaming. We played it earlier. Morning Joe's screaming at his audience, because they're losing audience because of that. And he's trying to say, well, we needed to find out what the man was about. It's like, you know what the man's about. And that you think with his audience, what they think about Trump, he's Hitler. You don't need to find anything out about Hitler. He's Hitler. You said he's Hitler. You said he's a fascist. What else do you need to know? Well, we need to find out what he's about. You know the guy. You loved the guy at one time. But, it's so much fun watching this. And Stephanie Ruhle here. And I didn't hear her initial opinion, but this is a clarification. She's trying to get out the full picture.
Now, we have heard a lot of takes about this pardon over the last day, but it is important to remember a few things. This has absolutely no impact on what Donald Trump has done or will do in the future. It just gives him a new talking point for the next few days. Donald Trump has already said he would pardon some January 6 rioters. And let us be clear. President Biden has a right to do this. It is in the Constitution. If you win the White House, you win the power of the pardon. This always happens at the end of administrations. And here's the thing. Doesn't matter who the president is, it always feels gross. But having said all of that, President Biden said he would not pardon his son and would respect the jury's decision. So he did go back on his word. He ceded the moral high ground and undermined his own argument against Trump, an argument he has been making for years. And that's where things stand.
I'm sorry. I love what's going on MSNBC. I love the circular firing squad we played earlier. Oh my gosh. The Newsom audio cut where they asked Newsom what went wrong in the election. And it's like, well, nobody really knows yet. We're still trying to figure this out. I'm paying attention to what Jon Stewart says. Jon Stewart said, we have to find out what went wrong in the election. And there's contradictory opinions of what went wrong in the election. Meanwhile, he's at the podium, and on the podium, big sign right on the podium, stuck to the podium, lower costs, stronger border. I mean, my God. I can tell you why you lost the election. Turn the podium around. Look at the sign. I'm sorry. I hate to name call, but these people are idiots. They're absolute idiots. I think. Because I'm watching this going, this has to be Babylon Bee or something. Did artificial intelligence, was that used in order to put that sign in front of him? Lower cost, jobs, stronger border. And then he's saying, I don't know why we lost the election. I'm thinking this has to be the Babylon Bee. And it's not. It's the reality. So just watching what's going on. And yeah, there's the infighting about Hegseth, but that's small potatoes compared to the, oh my gosh, the liberal circular firing squad going on right now. It really is about everything. Why they lost the election, and they still can't figure it out. And it's funny because we've told them over and over again, and just like Newsom right there, you know why you lost, because you're promoting different things than you've been promoting the last 4 years. So you know what went wrong. They know what went wrong. You lost because you have insane opinions on the issues. End of story. 866-90-RED-EYE.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
A stormy November over much of the country created significant reductions in U.S. drought coverage over the course of that month. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey explains.
October 29th, the U.S. Drought Monitor, we saw a drought coverage in the United States a little over 54%. And that was the highest U.S. drought coverage in about 2 years, going all the way back to December of 2022. Stepping forward about 5 weeks to December 3rd, we've seen that drought coverage come down more than 10 percentage points. We currently stand at a U.S. drought coverage of 43.64%. So heading in the right direction.
Most notable improvements by region included the Pacific Northwest, Central and Southern Great Plains, Midwest, and parts of the Mid-South. Some areas of deterioration, however, have been recorded over the past month in the Deep South, parts of the Northern Plains, and Mid-Atlantic. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Eric's out with no voice. We hope to see him on Sunday night, though. This is an audio cut from CNN. This is CNN host Breonna Keller with Kristen Waggoner, president of the Alliance Defending Freedom. They're one of the groups saying, no, we should not allow children to have puberty blockers and or mutilate their body as children. Listen to this argument. Listen to Breonna Keller and what she comes back and says. Here we go.
I think a lot of people are confused about this issue. They don't know where they stand on it. But where is the room for a conversation about this?
I love that we're having one right now in terms of a conversation, and that's what was at issue today. What kid, what girl is knows whether she's going to want to have a baby long term, or what testosterone will do to her uterus, or that she will increase her risk of heart attack by taking these drugs.
Some of them do.
No.
None of them.
No, I don't think
None of them do.
85%, what we know from the science, and again, it's about not putting ideology over evidence. And
these people are crazy. They're absolutely crazy. Eric and I, during the Obama administration, when they would lie about everything, every issue, same as with, with Biden, the border is secure, whatever. We were talking one day, and this was on the air, and I said, I think that Obama, and this was a part where he was just lying every day about every single issue. And we said, we really think that the strategy is lie about everything. The Republicans will scream that they're lying about everything, and people will say, come on, the Republicans simply say they lie about everything. Nobody lies about everything. It's like, well, we got away with it. And the same thing here. They're so insane on the issue, and they keep producing the insanity every single day. And so we think part of the strategy is, well, okay, the conservatives will get on the air every day and say, these people are insane. These people are crazy. And then those listening will say, no, nobody is this crazy. And that actually, we told you before the election, that was happening. That was one of the things, that there were independents and liberals that did not believe the things they were being told about their party. They said, that's not happening. Like the radical transgender movement and things like that. No, that's not. No, they really don't believe that. They really don't. They refuse to believe what was being promoted. And the more that you say, for example, this is crazy, these people are crazy, what they believe is crazy, they go, no. You're saying they believe that? I don't believe you. Well, they're saying it in their own words. No, there has to be a different meaning. And that was really telling that was what was going on before the election. Now, enough people realized and voted and saw the insanity what's going on. But you saw it for the Supreme Court yesterday. These people that believe that children, if they say, oh, think about that. Think about how insane that is. Well, yeah, I think that my body parts should be changed. I should get, enough hormones that will change me and make it so maybe I can't have a baby later in life. I'm going to cut off my penis. And the children, children know what they want. They should be able to do that. What the hell culture and what country did these people grow up in? Like, what in the world? There's just no way to describe it, and it never ends. It doesn't matter how much you go after them. They still, we need a conversation about whether children. There needs to be a conversation. And I loved how she said, the guest said, well, that's what we're doing now. We're having a conversation. No. Children shouldn't be able to remove their private parts. They don't have the capability to make that decision. Oh, I believe they do. Children have the capability. You're nuts. Wow. Oh, doesn't it get painful at times? I mean, it's just like you go, what is it? You're talking, it's like the anchors that Breonna Keeler is just like any of the people that we've talked about where you said, well, this is what they're doing. Yeah, but there needs to be a conversation because we believe that the children do have the capability and the judgment that if they wish to cut off their private parts at a young age, that they should be able to do that. I don't even know where to respond. Oh, yeah, I do, but but again, it's just like you just shake your head and go, they're crazy, and it's like, well, they can't be that crazy. They really don't believe that. They just want to open up the conversation. Open up the conversation to what? What's the conversation is, should children have the permission of society to use irreversible hormone therapy or cut off their private parts? And the answer is no.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And I'm Gary McNamara. Eric, hopefully we'll be back on Sunday night. He lost his voice today. I don't know how bad he is. I never talked to him. Alan didn't said he sounded bad, so we'll see what happens for Sunday night. You know, I do want to play. I played that audio cut. It was cut up into a couple of pieces. I want to play the full the context of it so you can hear what the woman said. This is Kristen Waggoner, president of the Alliance Defending Freedom, and this is the big Supreme Court hearing this week on the transgender law and puberty blockers and hormone treatment for children, and the insanity of the radical transgender movement, as we've talked about before. I wanted to play this from her, and then you had what's her name, Brianna Keeler, the host, say, "What, you mean children don't have the capability to, and the judgment to do so?" I mean, this is just nuts. Here we go.
It is not a constitutional right to engage in experimental surgeries that cause a child to lose their fertility. What kid, what girl knows whether she's going to want to have a baby long term, or what testosterone will do to her uterus, or that she will increase her risk of heart attack by taking these drugs?
Some of them do.
No.
None of them.
No, I don't think
None of them do.
85%, what we know from the science, and again, it's about not putting ideology over evidence, and that's what's happening here. 85% of all kids that are able to grow through puberty, who say they're gender confused, over 85% of those kids live at peace with their bodies and consistent with their sex. In those children that are put on puberty blockers, the science tells us that you're putting them on a one-way treadmill to live as the opposite sex for the rest of their life, and they will still experience being a lifelong patient.
There you go. But Brianna Keeler, none of them do, as if they have the judgment to do that as a child. I mean, how it's, they're trying to wrap this up in compassion, and we need to have a conversation on it, and they're crazy. You're talking about such clear evidence of absolute child abuse, and they're trying to wrap it somehow in compassion. It's so evil. And you just wonder, one of the things is, I grew up on the northern border, and Eric spent most of his life on the southern border. But we grew up in the, in the same country, and we have, the same, we grew up in the same, culture with the same morality. And we see stuff like this, and we're just like, where did these people grow up? What did their parents teach them? What is their experience with their own kids? Who believes that a 9-year-old has the proper judgment, as Kristen Waggoner said, to make a lifelong decision on their fertility? Oh, yeah, they do. Some do, yeah, absolutely they do. What the hell world did you grow up in? I always go back to one of my favorite, remember the old TV show WKRP in Cincinnati? And they were doing an interview show, and Dr. Johnny Fever was interviewing some guy who was supposed to be an expert, but apparently wasn't. He was nuts. And they were talking about raising kids, and the guest said, children by adult standards are insane. It's like, never forget that. I'm like, yeah, you're right. The things that we would do, I mean, you think about it, that how many times have I said as a teenage boy, people say, "Are you afraid of dying?" I should have been dead a long time ago. I should have been dead over a half a century ago with the dumb things that I did. I'm not talking about, young and drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, standing too close to the edge of a cliff, falling off a cliff one time. I actually fell about 60 feet, but the the cliff that I fell off, it rounded off at the end, and there was all this slate rock, so I hit and I rolled all the way down. And all the kids I was with thought I died. They were like screaming, "Oh my God, he's dead!" And I was fine. I mean, I didn't hurt anything. I probably hit about 20 feet down because it went into this incline, and I rolled all the way down, and it looked worse than it was. And they were all screaming, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to play dead." So I'm down with them playing. They all come to, they take the other path around. They come down. "You're all right, all right." I jump up. Ah! They go, "Oh my God, we thought you died." Some of the dumb thing. Riding. I remember reading the autobiography of George Carlin, talking about him growing up as a kid in New York City. And he was talking about, and now they set up, parents set up play dates with their kids. Let's have a play date, a play date, a play date. He said, when we were kids, he goes, we're lucky we're alive. And he talked about riding their bikes in between traffic in New York City, daring themselves to get hit by the car. Well, I'm on a plane reading this, and I start laughing out loud. I'm laughing out loud. The people in my row are looking at me like, what in the hell's wrong with you? Because I related to it. The things that you did as a kid, you think you'd never. I'm riding the bike now. I've got this huge, 50,000 candle watt power headlight on the front. The back of my bicycle, you look at this flashing red and blue light that I look like an emergency vehicle from 1,000 feet away. I've got the biggest, orange reflecting vest on. My gloves are colorful. I'm checking both ways. I don't want to die on my bike. And as a kid, through traffic, whatever, all over the place, as a teenager. And they're saying, oh, yeah, a 9-year-old who believes they should cut off their private parts or take irreversible hormone therapy, they certainly do have the judgment. Sorry, I was a kid. We didn't have the judgment, you idiots. All right, and I want to play this because Eric we were talking the other day, and Eric said this audio cut has to be one of our candidates for audio cut of the year. And it's not a politician. It's not something stupid being said at all. It's in all seriousness. This is a woman who spoke before the Chicago City Council going after Mayor Johnson. And we talk about the change in the election, the change in the demographics, how blacks are moving more Republican and Hispanics are moving more Republican. And we look at this election, and when Eric said it, when he said this should be the audio cut of the year, I understood exactly what he was saying. Because this is the difference. Almost every speaker that when we watched a portion of this, it went up, was a minority. And this is a black woman who spoke before the Chicago City Council. And if you want to know the change that's going on in our country, we probably could have more of an entertaining audio cut, from, and we just won't have one audio cut of the year. We have a number of them. But this has to be in contention because this shows the shift that happened this year that made this election historic. This will go down in the history books. Absolutely go down in the history books. No one saw this coming the way it did 2 years ago. No one. You might have said Trump could win. Nobody knew that he would win this way, in the way that he won. But here it is. Here's this woman.
Okay, so I got a great way how we can what we can do with this budget. First, let's start with cutting off illegals, getting free everything. Free housing, free schooling, free food. Yeah, let's start with that. That'll save us a lot of money. What, $600 million? Let's start there. Then let's start with your salary. You are going down in history as the worst mayor in America. Let's start with cutting yours. You making too much money. Let's start there. And now let's start with the police detail you have, the 200 police detail you have. Let's start with that. Because you Democrats, and you remember you told us to defund the police. Remember, you ran on that. Remember, you was to defund the police. Let's start with that. Let's defund the police detail that you have. And let's put the police back in our neighborhood, because we're not for defunding the police. We need the police. So let's start with all the Democrats, because y'all policy, what y'all push in our neighborhood, defund the police. So all y'all that got police details and got police presence around y'all house, let's start with cutting that. That'll save a lot of money. So won't you just practice what you preach? Remove all the details. We saw you coming in today. You had all the police presence. So let's take some of that away. And then let's start with and I'm asking you all, and I'm telling you all, aldermen, whatever property tax hike he's proposing, or whatever taxes he's proposing on the Chicago citizens, I'm letting y'all know for real. And now, if you all vote on anything to raise all taxes or anything, because we already suffering, homeowners, you all will not be in those seats.
There you go. Wonderful. I don't have her name. I wish I had her name, but I don't have her name. But when Eric said that the other day after I played the audio cut, he said that has to be in consideration for audio cut of the year, because it does give you an example of the shift. You know, you think about the summer of 2020 and the insanity and everything, that defund the police. And do you remember? Good God. Oh, the insanity. Well, what we need to do, we need to have less police calls. And remember, for domestic violence, for domestic incidents, we need to ensure, don't bring the police in, bring social workers up to the door, unarmed social workers. Remember that one? It's like, no. And been a complete reversal. You know, I look at this year, too, and I look at how Eric and I felt like we were alone talking about the radical transgender movement for the longest time. And we would get people that would call us, our listeners, saying, you know, guys, you know, that's not going to go anywhere. They're just nuts. And we said, no, it is going to go somewhere. And then you see where it went and where it is right now. It's before the Supreme Court of the United States. But you think about, you know, Riley Gaines coming out really just a little over a year ago, right? And coming out and putting everything on the line and getting that moving. And now all these things, these crazy things that the Democrats were talking about, the right is winning. And that's a perfect example, because those are all the things, you know, right there. Illegal immigration, the budget, taxes, defund the police. Everything that we've said, that's an example of how the hypothetical that has been sold by the Democrats for such a long time has hit that red wall of reality, and people are now feeling it. Their opinions now are based on the fact that what their government has legislated, what their government has done, has come back and hurt them, not help them. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. Hopefully Eric is back for Sunday night, Monday morning. Just lost his voice. He said it wasn't COVID. So he's got COVID tests. I don't even know if I have any COVID tests left, but he took a COVID test. He said it's not COVID. All right, I want to play this audio cut because we talked about this earlier this week. The Village People, if asked, will play at the inauguration. You ready? Here's this interview with Victor Willis, the singer from the Village People.
Well, if you were to ask me today if Village People would perform at the inauguration, I would probably say not, because we'd be concerned about endorsement. But however, if the president-elect, because the president-elect has done so much for YMCA and brought so much joy to so many people, the song has actually gone back to #1, and it's still #1 today. So if he were to ask village people to perform the song live for him, we'd have to seriously consider it.
Well, we know he watches, so Mr. President-elect, the ball's in your court.
Oh, wait a minute. Do they play the song? Here we go. I hate this song! Have yourself a great weekend.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.